Just before we get started, I just want to do the Acknowledgement of Country. So, in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout South Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Okay, so just very quickly, hopefully everyone is well used to using Teams by now, but if you're not, just a couple of key things. So there's reactions enabled in this for this session. So if you're using Teams on the desktop version, you should see at the top a little hand with a smiley face. If you can see that, can you press or hover over that now and just give me a thumbs up so that I can see you can find that? Perfect, thanks, Faye, thanks. I can't see your name, Tash. If you're using the web version of Teams, you won't be able to do all of the reactions, but you can put your hand up. Just note that if you do put your hand up to ask a question, once you've asked that question, if you can click on the hand symbol again to put your hand down, that would be helpful. Okay, the other thing to note is that the chat, so anything that's typed into the chat is available after the meeting as well, and that will appear in the chat in your Teams. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with a quick poll. So polls are part of Teams, a part of forms. So I'm just going to start this first one just to see if any of you have already joined a webinar that I've run earlier in the year. So you should see a form pop up on your screen, and if you can just click yes or no to that and then submit. Okay, so only 3 people have responded so far. Perfect. Okay, so most people are, well, it's about half and half. That's okay. And then the next one is about your main role. So if again you could click and just let me know whether you're primary, secondary or admin and corporate. And then just click on submit. Okay, so no primary and, oh, 1 primary. Okay, and some secondary and admin. Perfect, thank you for that. My background is that I have been secondary trained, but I was teaching in primary for most of my teaching. So the examples that I show you today might be a bit more primary focused. However, that's just because they're things that I've done with my students. It doesn't mean that you can't use them in a secondary context, if that makes sense. Okay, well, I think we've shown you forms, but one handy tip before, if you're only using one screen, you might want to use this tip. So you can press the Windows key on your keyboard if you're using a Windows machine, and then either the right or the left arrow, and that will split your screen. So that will allow you to see the Teams where I'm doing my demonstration and also use forms at the same time. All right, and I think now I will share my screen. Get Teams back. There we go. Okay, so the first bit of this webinar, I'm just going to show you some examples of some forms. And then in the second bit of the webinar, we're going to have a bit of a play around and an experiment. So forms is only online, so there's no desktop version, and you can access it from Office, so www.office.com, and then just log in with your normal school's email address. Once you get into Office, you probably see what you've been working on, and Forms is down the side, that little green icon with an F. Now, when you open up Forms for the first time, you might not have all this populated. It's populated with your most recent forms. However, if you're part of a team, so for example, down here, I've got some teams that I'm part of that have got forms. So you might find some forms there that you haven't made, but if you belong to a team, they're appeared there as well. Just on this, oh, no, I'll show you that later. I'll go and show you some examples. So the first example I'm showing you here is a form for grandparents, parents, and Special Trends Day. You could also use it for canteen volunteers, for example, in a secondary context. One of the great things about forms is that it can be shared with people outside of the department. So this form here, it's got some required questions. You can tell it's been shared outside of the department because it doesn't have the person's name here. And then it's got these required questions, and then you can submit. This is another example. So this is an example that you might use in a classroom. This is a quiz rather than a form. And this example here is using branching. So you could use something like this for a formative assessment. So here they've got the question, what time is shown on the clock. If the student answers it incorrectly, it goes to a question that gives them some more information. If they answer it correctly, it moves on to the next question. So that's quite handy if you need to differentiate your learning for students or give them some extra support. I'm going to show you a few more examples in a moment, but before I do, I'm just going to show you what the back end of a form looks like. So this here is a form that's quite complex. You can see it's got quite a few different sections, and it's quite long as well. So this is a form that I used for registration for a training session. And you can see here it's got 115 responses. So one of the nice things about forms is when people respond, it gives you this nice visual view of what they've said as well. So you can see here, you can get some word clouds, and it also gives you some graphs if they're checkpoint questions, and some nice graphs there as well. The other nice thing is that you can export to Excel as well. And all these results are also in real time. So if someone was to respond to this form right now, I would see their result pop up straight away. Okay, I'm just going to move out of forms for a moment and go into my team that's got some other example forms. So these are some other ways that students might use forms in the classroom. Your students to create forms. So this is an example where the students have made up their own form, and they can send this one out to people outside of the department. So that's really good for a research project, for example. You could use it for collecting students' assignments. So if you're using Teams, for example, to collect students' examples, the file size is limited. However, you can upload files to a form. So you could get students, if they're making in visual arts or media arts videos, you could use this as a way to collect their work as well. So uploading files is only for people within the department, but that's a use case for forms. This is another example of how you might use forms. So this is one to vote for student representatives. If I go to preview mode, again, this is a branching one, so the student selects which house they belong to and then can vote for the team or the people in that house. And the last example is a comprehension. So again, this is a formative assessment. This time it's a quiz. So again, you can see there's the text in there and the questions, and you can see here there's a tick next to each of the questions. Because this is a quiz, as a teacher, I'm able to assign which question is correct, and then this will self-mark. Okay, any questions so far? If you can give me a thumbs up if you're still following along okay with the reactions. Okay, thanks Tash. Thanks Faye. Thanks Jenna. Okay, so now what we might do is I might get you, or we might build a form together. So if possible, if you can go to your browser, and I'm going to get my right browser up. Right, your browser. And then if you can go to that office.com. So that's in the chat as well. And then we want to go to forms. And I'll just wait there till everybody's managed to do that. So when you've managed to do that, open up forms. If you can just give me a thumbs up, or if you're on the web version, just put your hand up. That would be great. Thanks, Tash.
Hi, sorry. I'm having a bit of a problem. I'm on my iPad, so
Okay,
I'm just gonna listen to you.
No worries. Yeah, iPad is a little bit different
Tricky,
sometimes.
yeah. I'm going to listen to what it is, and I'll log in on my computer later and try to follow that. All right.
No worries,
Thank
Kate.
you. Thanks.
I just got a message on Teams. I'm just going to check whether it's someone trying to come in. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and double check. Okay. Let's see. It is someone and they're having trouble coming in. Just bear with me while people are getting their chains up. Sorry, their forms up. If I can. Right, how's everyone else doing? Ah, perfect, Kate. Okay, no worries. Okay, well, we might move along. I'll share my screen again. Okay, so yours might have some forms, as I said, or it might be blank. If you've got some forms here, but you can't find the form that you want, a tip is to go to the All My Forms down the bottom, and then that will give you all your forms if you click on the Show More. So you can see I've got lots, and because I've done some polls as well. They've appeared there. One new feature that's just come in is something called new collections. So if you're trying to organise your forms into, say, assessments, you could do a new collection. And let's call this one assignments. See if I spell it right. And then you could move the relevant forms into that folder. So that's a new way that you can organise your forms. There's also the new quiz or the new form option from here. I'm just going to hop back to that main page again, just to make you aware that on this main page, the default setting is actually new quiz because we're using the education version. So if you want to do a form instead of a quiz, it's that button down. Okay, today we are going to start with a form rather than a quiz. So if you can click on that button down and click on new form, that should open up a brand new form for you. Okay, so the first thing is you need to give your form a title. You don't have to add a description, but you can if you'd like. And you can insert an image as well. So we're not going to do that today, but just know that they're options. You can see Tash is typing in the chat. I'll just hold on for a moment. Your account is not enabled for Microsoft Forms. Tash, are you logged on with your at school's email address in your browser? You can come off mute if you'd like, if that's easier. Is everybody else able to get into Forms? Hopefully. Okay. Okay, so we've got a new title. We don't have to add an description, and we're just going to click on Add New. And then we've got some choices. So the first one is a choice. So we're just going to add a question. Oops. Now, if I want to add some more options, I can just click on that. And if I want the students or people to be able to add something, I click on the Add Other option, and that allows them to type in something. If I want them to be able to select multiple questions, that's that there, and then they'll be able to use a tick box and tick more than one. The other thing to note is the required. So if you click on required, it will come up with a red star next to it in the preview mode. Great, Carmel, that you've managed to join us. It will come up with a red star in the preview mode, and that means the person needs to answer that question. So we just untick required for that one. Okay, let's add another one. This time we're going to add a text. Okay, so for this one, if you want them to just be able to write a couple of words, you can keep it there. But if you want them to write several sentences or a paragraph, you need to click on long answer, and then they'll be able to answer more lines. And again, you've got the option of required. Okay, let's add the next type. So the next type is rating. So with rating, you've got the option of changing how many things it's out of. So you can change it to 10 if you'd like. You can't say, you can't add a description in ratings, but you can change the symbol so you can have it as a number. And again, you can add required. If you want to, for this one, for example, you could add a subtitle. So you could say 1 oops. Fantastic. Okay, notice how I'm not having to save anything because it's on the web, it automatically saves. Okay, let's add the next type. So the next type is date. Now this one's really handy if you are getting, for example, parents or something to fill in a question. So we use it to say what day did you have training, for example, but you could use it if you're asking for volunteers, what dates can they volunteer? If you wanted to create a form for parent-teacher interviews, for example, you could use what date are you available for a meeting. Okay. And then as well as those 4 options, we've got some other ones here. So we've got ranking, which is quite good as well. So this will allow people to order or put things in order. And then the like art, that's where you've got the options and they can tick underneath. If you don't want all of them, whoops, try that again. You can get rid of some of those options as well by just clicking on the delete button. I'm feeling good about, no, I am at running. Right. And again, if you want to go back into that question and add more, you can just click on add statement. Okay. The net promoter score, that's one where you can change the labels down the bottom. It's always out of 10, so you can't change that. And it will give you in the results, it will show you how many people were okay, how many people were something called distractors, and how many people liked it. So that's quite a good one if you want to be more specific about something that people, for feedback, basically. So let's keep the one that they've given me as a suggestion. And that's it. Oh, the last one we do is the file upload. So again, the file upload can only be used if the form is being shared with people with @schools addresses. So that's students or staff members. So just keep in mind that if you do create one and then open it up later, this question will just not allow people to upload files. So unfortunately, you can't use it for parents to return forms or governing council to return forms. Okay, you can choose how many files the person can upload. So you might want 4 photos, and you can also change how big the file size is, and that's a single size. So again, I've had teachers use this for media arts, for students to submit videos. Okay, I think that's it there. So there are all the different file types. I'm now going to, we'll just preview that. So let's click on the preview there. So this is what the form looks like if I was to send it to someone. You can see it's got Hi Abigail. That means I know that the form is one that collects all my data, and at this stage it's only for sharing with people without schools' addresses. Okay, once you're in preview mode, you can actually submit things, but we're not going to. But to get back to your form, just click on back. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the features up here. So first of all, if I click on theme, it gives me some ideas about how I can make the form look a little bit nicer. So I might choose something like this one. Or down the bottom, let's move my computer. There's this customize theme, and if I click on that, I can add a picture from OneDrive, or I can upload a file. Let's just go back. The other thing I can do is customize a color. So that requires a hex. So for example, if I'm using or creating something for my school and I want a particular branding, I could go to somewhere like Color Picker, and I'll just put the address in the chat. So that's this one. Here I've got my ICT services photo, and then I can get that hex file. Oops. Put it in there, and then I know that it's going to have my my particular branding. So if I go to preview now, I can see that color's there. So that's quite handy if you're creating a form that needs specific branding. Okay, the next one over is share. So this is where I can change my settings to share with people outside of the department, so parents. So here it says at the moment only people in my organisation can respond. So that's why when we looked at the preview, it had my name there. And it looks like it's just, I can't do this at the moment because what did I put in there? I put in this upload file. So let's just delete this question. So I'm just going to click on it and click delete. And now when I go back into share, I've got anyone can respond. So if you do that, you might have to do the same thing. So if I click on that one, that means that anyone can now answer my form. I have some options. I can click on shorten URL and just copy that and then paste that into an email, for example. I can use or download a QR code. So you can see it's downloaded here. And let's see. So I could put that on a newsletter, for example, and that will bring up that form. I can embed it. So if I was building something like a sway, I could embed the form using that code, and that's a direct email out. The other two options here are quite handy as well. So share as a template. So if I was collaborating with other teachers or other corporate staff, I might want to keep my form as it is as the original, but share that so that the same other teachers could use this for their assessment, for example. So I can get the link to duplicate. That will mean my form stays the same, but I can share the form with other people. The other one is share to collaborate. Now this one here will give people access to the form, so that, say if I put in, or if I, let's do specific people. So if I put in Tash in here, then it comes up. And then if I put that in the link, then Tash will also be able to go in and edit this form. Okay, so template duplicates. This form will stay the same. Share means the person I've shared with can come in and change things. Just be careful, because there is one school that I know that shared the share to collaborate link to parents. And that meant that the parents could go in and see everybody's responses. So the share to collaborate gives people access to the responses. If you want to share with parents, then it's this link up the top that you want to send, not the collaborate down the bottom. Okay, any questions about that sharing? Everybody's okay? Can you give me a thumbs up in the reactions if you're okay at the moment? Thanks, Tash. Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Faye. Okay, hopefully everybody else is following along. Okay, after share, I've got these 3 dots here, and that gives me some more settings. So here I can set some things that are quite useful. So as well as who can respond, I can also set some start dates and end dates. So that's really useful if there's a cutoff period for something, and shuffle questions as well. And I can customize a thank you message. So after the form has been submitted, I could put in or change what it says. So it could say, you will be contacted shortly, or information email, and put in an email address. Yeah, if it's a form that you want to know who's done the who's submitted to as well, you can click this get email notifications as well. If it's only people within my organisation as well, you've got the ability to set it to 1 response per person. That means that the same person can't add or fill in multiple forms. So that's quite a useful one to know about. Okay, just double checking how I'm going. I reckon we're all okay in terms of the forms. So I'm just going to go back to my forms now and show you a couple of things to do with quizzes that are a little bit different. So I clicked up the top to go back to forms, and now I'm going to go into new quiz. So again, I'm going to give it a title. I might just mute you, Carmel, because there's a bit of background noise. Okay, so let's have a look up here. Let's give it a title. And then again, I've got all the same choices. So let's add new, let's do choice. And this time let's do maths. And this time when we enter that equation, so 5x times 6 equals 7y. This time, normally it gives you some options there. Here we go. So it's given me some options, and I can just click add all, and it will tell me the correct answer as well. So that's really handy you don't have to think of multiple choice questions. I'm going to add a new one here as well. This time we are going to add some text, and this time I'm just going to copy and paste in a question from a reading response. So this one here, let's put that question in there. And then I'm going to add my answers. Oh, we don't want maths, so let's get rid of maths. So the correct answer might be trees. And I can add some other options as well, because I might want, or students might. Okay, so I've added a couple of options. I'm going to put in some points there. And so again, that will self-correct. If I go to preview, and let's see, yep. Once I submit this, as a student, I can view my results and I can see that I got those two questions right as well. So that's really good for that immediate feedback. If I go back and I go back into my settings as well, I can change that as well. So I can change it from show results automatically. So if I'm doing a summative test, for example, I might not want my students to know their results straight away in case they share it with other students. So you can set that so that they don't know straight away as well. And again, you've got the start dates, end dates. A good one for quiz is shuffle questions as well. Because again, if you've got students taking a test at the same time, it's handy to be able to shuffle those questions. You can just see I've got a question in the chat. Okay, no worries, Jenna. Okay. Any more questions about the quiz section? Feel free to come off mute or type something in the chat. Otherwise, I've just got another poll, hopefully. About what you might like to find out about in the time we've got remaining. So I've got some options there. If you can just click on the thing that you might or you're most interested in finding out about, and then I can talk you through that. Kate, are you able to do polls on an iPad? Does that work or not?
Sorry, I've got to leave. Thank you very much. Bye.
Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry, Kate. Can you try again? Okay. Okay. So, we've got a couple that want to know about adding polls to PowerPoint or forms to PowerPoint, and a couple about adding polls to meetings. So we'll start off with PowerPoint because that's relatively easy. So let's open up my PowerPoint. So I've just got a blank presentation here. And if I'm in home, all I need to do is go to my insert. And then you should see forms pop up there. So I can just click on forms. And then I've got some options. So if I've already created the form, I can go in and choose the one that I've already created and insert that one. Or I can do a new form or a new quiz from the top as well. So if you're able to follow on along and you've opened up PowerPoint, that form that you just created should turn up in the My Forms. And then when you save it, or when someone tries to enter the question, so let's submit this one. And now if I go back to my forms, and let's find the right window and find that koala's form, I'll now see that I've got one response, and that one response was in the water, which was incorrect. Now, if this is viewed in slideshow mode, not sure how this is going to go, so let's see. Yep, let's try again. It won't let me resubmit. Let's try again. We'll insert another form instead. Get out of slideshow mode. Let's insert this one instead. Okay, and then let's go to slideshow mode. And then if again, I can submit that one actually in my slideshow mode. And then I've got the option to submit another response because it's a form rather than a quiz. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. And again, if I was to go back into my forms and go to that USB one, and I can see I've got one response in there, and that's what I just did in my PowerPoint. So you can see that's quite good. If you're doing a presentation, you can share that. Okay, so going back up to that last poll. So there's a couple of people that also wanted to know about polls in meetings. So let's go back into Teams. And to do that, I need to have set up my meeting in Calendar. So I'm just going to do a dummy meeting. Whoop, pause. And I'm just going to add one person in there, so you can add yourself. But I do need to add at least one person. So I'm going to close that, whoop, send that, and then I can go back in and edit. And then in here, I want to go to my chat button. So in chat, you can add things before a meeting. And then I've got this plus here, and that allows me to add forms. So I'm just going to click on forms and click on add. And then I can click on save. And then I can create some polls, and I can do this all before the meeting. So I might want to use one I've used before. or I could just create a new one. And I've got some different options there. I'll show you what it looks like in Teams. I'll just stop sharing that screen for a moment and share my Teams meeting. So here's the meeting that we're in, and you can see now at the top, next to my breakout rooms, I've got this F for forms, which is my polls. And when I click on there, you can see all the polls that I preloaded. And when I want to put them out, I just have to click on launch. And then that will go out to everyone in that Teams meeting. So that's using a poll in Teams. One thing to note about polls though, is if you've got a class meeting, here's again my screen. Let's go in, and here's my meeting that I've set up, and this is outside of a team. Let's do another one because it's already in there. So I've just clicked. I need to add at least one person, so I normally just add myself. Now the reason I want to add one person is then Teams knows that it's definitely a Teams meeting and not just an appointment. I'm going to send that. I don't have to add anyone else at this stage. I can go back in, and then this time I'm going to go into chat and click on the plus symbol, and then I can click on forms. Then I can click on add. And now you should be able to see what I was talking about. Let's click on save. And then it gives me a selection of a suggestion that I can select. And then when I save it as a draft, it's there for you to see. So the option that you can't do is if you've got a meeting that is inside a class team or a team channel. So again, this is my test class. That's that meeting that I just talked through setting up. And when I click here to go into meeting details, when I click on chat, I don't have that plus symbol. So I can't add any polls in advance. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, the last one that we've just got time for is how to do a polls actually within a team. So I use this test team again, and I'm just in one of the channels, and I can click on new conversation. And then down the bottom here, I might have that F for forms. Now, if I don't have that there, you can click here and type in forms, and then you should be able to click there to add it. So I've already added it, so I'm going to click here to forms. And then I can add in here my question. Now you can see it automatically gives me that option as well. And then I can do preview. And if I'm happy with that, I can press send. And then everyone in that team will then be able to respond, and I will be able to see that. I'm just going to plug my headphones in because they're just telling me that I've got low battery. Hang on a sec. Okay. Okay, so that's forms in a team. Now, I'm just going to show you a couple of other things just to give you an idea of the power of forms and what is possible. So I'm just going to show you my team here, that is my teams team. And inside this, we've got lots of forms that we've actually linked to some graphs. So if I go to feedback and feedback, I think, you can see here, this is a list. So I can see all the responses to a form that we send out and then I send out at the end. And also the responses have been listed or been visualized with Power BI. And when it loads, so again, this is a form that's produced these, and then I've got a nice visual showing me how many people have done each of the training and the average response. So that's quite powerful, how you can use forms to collect data like that. The other thing is, when you submit a feedback form, and I'll give you the link in a moment as well, you'll also get a certificate, and that's all generated from the form response as well. So that's using forms with SharePoint lists.